You ever speak to a group of people and all of a sudden you see glimmer in their eyes? You actually see them smiling when they, when they have that moment. Or you say something sad and there's a tear. That for me was just it. Once that happened, I knew, hey, you've got to be in this space. This is you.
One of the difficulties for me is that I've been very intentional over the past 20 years of not sharing everything I do and not sharing everything I achieve. And so when you kind of like want to put it down on a timeline, it's actually quite a fair bit to try and put down and to try and stem down and to try and be like, this is what God has allowed me to do over this period of time. So let's arc back. So I'm now 19 years old. I'm a professional speaker. I've now had a national platform launching me both on Take 5 and on Mojo. You would think then that what happens is like the phone is like ringing off the hook. I'm getting booked left, right, and center. And the truth is, not really. Not really. I've got a couple of like standout moments I remember. I remember vividly being booked by Vusi, who today I think is a partner in a private equity firm. Then he used to run Umsobomvu Youth Fund. The fact that I'm naming these places should tell you how old I am. This is before Umsobomvu Youth Fund was consolidated with the National Youth Commission to create the National Youth Development Agency, the NYDA. I had a long tiff with them many years ago, about 10 years ago. It's publicly available. You can go and read on it. We don't need to get into the details. But I then get invited by Vusi to come and speak at this event, right? And he was hosting like an entrepreneurs event happening, I want to say in Mpumalanga. And I get up on stage to speak, and I was speaking and Vusi was speaking. And those moments for me have just been moments where I've looked and gone, wow, man, this is an unbelievable stage. I remember the first time sharing the platform and the stage with David Molapo. There was an event held by Prime Stars, I think it was, Martin, who had invited me to speak at this event. And David Molapo had been a hero of mine. For those of you who don't know, Tata Molapo kind of like created the public speaking industry in South Africa. He's one of the first and few people who was earning a living from public speaking in the late 80s, early 90s. And so for me to get on the stage with this unbelievable, incredible man, share the platform with him, and then walk it. I suppose for those of you kind of like watching this who don't know the side of me, right? Like I'm ruthlessly competitive, and I think it's a natural and a very important part of how it is that I've come to be where I'm at. I'm actually very competitive. Once that competitive thing inside you switches on, it never goes off. And for me, it switched on when I started competing in public speaking at school, then becoming a professional speaker, coming into an industry that was dominated with people in their late 30s, 40s, and 50s, being a kid in his teens, being completely sidelined, and people thinking you're just a fad, and then dominating year after year after year after year, award after award, stage after stage. And so I kind of start my public speaking life. And I remember the very first website I had. Now, you're not allowed to laugh, okay? There was a restaurant in Newtown. Let me get this out. There was a restaurant in Newtown called Sapphire Town, Central Johannesburg College. And I got a contract with them through the SRC. And the head of the SRC was this guy called Themba. So Themba was the president of the SRC. I was helping them do some work in the college. And I meet this guy who was studying at CJC in the Parktown campus called Mava. And he was a designer. So I was like, dude, I need a website. Got a photographer. And we went and took some pictures. There's a picture of me. There's a picture of me. You're not allowed to laugh, but there's a picture of me where I'm like holding a shield and I'm like wearing this like pinstriped gray suit and I'm starting to get my pot belly. Those are the early days, man. But anyway, we went to this restaurant, Sapphire Town, and we just like hung out the restaurant and acted like we weren't there. And then when the proprietors of the restaurant weren't looking, we'd like pose a little bit and then like pose a little bit and get some shots that were going to go into the website. Anyway, the restaurant owners were brothers. I can't remember if they were brothers or twins. I'm going to tell you a little story about both of them in a minute. I think it was Tabule Tabis or something like this. Gents, forgive me if I've gotten the name wrong. But one of them saw us and then came to us and was like, what are you guys doing? Like, no, we're just trying to take some pictures. We're going to put it up on our website. He was like, I don't like what you guys are doing. You must not ask nicely, okay? Ask nicely. Anyway, you can take your pictures. So we start taking the pictures. I start posing confidently, go to like the bar area, pose confidently. You know, that's kind of, everybody who like sees my pictures goes, what's he doing with his eyebrow? That's where the eyebrow comes from. The eyebrow comes from like those poses I was doing at Sapphire Town. This is a true story. Now, listen to this. Years later, I was studying at Wits Business School. I did an advanced management program at Wits Business School. And my classmate was the owner of Sapphire Town. And I'll never forget, Bronwyn had this event where she invited some of her speakers to come and just meet each other. It was like a networking event. And I met this guy called Hector Motao. Unbelievable human being. Very, very funny guy. Very down to earth, right? And Hector, I'll never forget, Hector was wearing a blue suit, white shirt, and like a yellow goldish tie. And Hector sees me. He's like, I know you. I saw you on like you were being interviewed. You're like the young guy coming into public speaking. Yeah. And Hector was just like, he was so gracious with me. He was just like, man, I hope you do well. I hope you do well in the industry. I hope you kill it because this is a tough business. And for those of you who don't know, like public speaking is a brutal business. Every person you meet who's a professional speaker, when you ask them how's business, they go phenomenal. And then a month later, they're working at a car dealership somewhere. So, and the reason is because this business, if you're not careful, forces you to play a character that's not true. Because who wants to listen to a speaker that's struggling? Nobody. So when you are a speaker, by design, you must be successful, no? You must have your life in order, no? And so what you find is a lot of people who are in this business whose lives are a lie. It's a complete facade, right? And sooner or later, things just kind of unravel for them. And it's quite sad, actually. And I'm very blessed that every mistruth I have ever been forced to tell, God gave me the grace to make it true. But that RSI, man, and I'll never forget, I bought the RSI at Toyota in Rivonia. Very first job I ever had, and I went and bought that RSI. When I went to pick up the car, don't share this, between you and I. When I went to pick up the car, I didn't have a license. Hear me out. I was earning 8,000 Rand. This is long before, National Consumer Act or whatever, Credit Act. And so banks just looked at what you were earning and gave you, the car. That was back in that day. And I bought that car. So I arc back to that evening. I'm there that evening and I'm meeting all these speakers. Michael Jackson's there, the other Michael Jackson, the guy who talks about the challenge of change. I did that just the way he would. And I get to meet all these guys. And I'm parking outside in my Toyota Runex. I'm like, yo, people are driving cars here. Eh? Chrysler Crossfire. Do you remember the Chrysler Crossfire? Let me tell you, no car has caused more broken hearts for young boys in Township than a Chrysler Crossfire and a BMW X5. Because if there was a guy if there was a guy who was going to take your girl, he either had a Chrysler Crossfire or a BMW X5. And y'all know I ain't lying. I get there and I park my little Toyota and I'm looking around and there's Graham Codrington's BMW M5. And that's how I got to meet Graham Codrington, who's been working in this industry since. He now runs a company called Tomorrow Today. Literally, we're shooting this. This is a true story. I'm going to be speaking in a week's time, I think, in Cape Town, and I'm going to be sharing the stage with Graham Codrington. We've been in this business for that long, and he probably 10 years predates me now in this business. So I kind of start building a business, building a rapport. And it wasn't always great. Like I had some terrible experiences. I'll tell you guys an experience that's completely off the books. Nobody's ever heard this before. I missed a speaking event. And over the past 20 years, I can't tell you how many clients have booked me more than once. When times are tough, show up for yourself. And when you make a mistake, be gracious with yourself. And when people give you a second chance, don't take it for granted. slow and steady. I know it's not the message today, in today's world of hyperscale and hyper efficiency, but trust me, slow and steady is the most guaranteed way to get to the life that you want.